The story began on a Monday morning when a new core member came to Econ office. Her name was Amara. She was tall, smooth-skinned, and spoke with a calm voice that could melt anger. The sun itself seemed to rest on her face. From the first moment she walked in, the whole office turned to look. Even the women stopped typing. One whispered, "Who is this fine damsel?" and another replied, "She must be the new copper they said was coming from the city." The manager smiled and said, "Welcome, my dear. You'll work with us for your service here. Make yourself at home." And so, Amara began her journey at the office, but unknown to all, they had just opened the door to something from another world. Amara was humble. Or so everyone thought. She greeted the cleaners with respect, helped older women carry their bags, and always smiled at anyone who spoke to her. She would say, "Oh, auntie, you're looking fine today," or "Oga, that shirt fits you well." Her words were honey, and her laughter was soft like evening rain. The snake that will bite never shows its fangs at first. Amara had a way of listening. If two people were talking, she would quietly sit nearby, pretending to be busy. She collected words the way bees collect nectar, and later, she would use them as poison. Within 1 month, everyone in the office trusted her. They told her their worries, their family stories, even their grudges. But wherever Amara passed, trouble soon followed, though no one could trace it back to her. At first, the office had been like a family. They worked together, laughed together, and shared lunch from one pot. But one morning, two women who had always been close suddenly stopped talking. The next day, two friends refused to share the same desk. By the end of the week, people began suspecting one another. It started small, like a single drop of palm oil on white cloth. "Did you hear what he said about you?" Amara would whisper, "I didn't want to tell you, but they are planning to remove you from that position," she'd say to another. And like fire in dry grass, her words spread fast. One man told his friend, "Amara told me you called me lazy." The other shouted, "What nonsense. She told me you said I'm a thief." Soon, Econ office became a battlefield of gossip and suspicion. But Amara, she only smiled sweetly, filing papers and pretending to bring peace. The boss began to notice that work was no longer smooth. Files went missing. Projects got delayed. Clients complained. "Why is everyone fighting?" he asked. Each person had a story, and somehow, each story led back to a conversation Amara had been part of. Still, no one dared to blame her. How could they? She was too kind, too calm, too perfect. But the air in the office began to change. It grew thick, heavy, like something unseen was watching from the corners. The cleaners started finding shredded papers and bits of snakeskin under desks. The air smelled faintly of burnt palm oil, even when no one was cooking. People laughed less. Dreams became strange. And through it all, Amara glided like a queen, untouched and smiling. One day, the old night guard, Baba, was sweeping near Amara's corner when he found something unusual, a small, clear snakeskin, curled under her chair. He frowned and picked it up carefully. When morning came, he showed it to the boss. "Oga," he said, "I have seen this before. It means a serpent walks among us." The boss laughed. "Baba, you and your village stories again. Maybe a small lizard came in." But Baba didn't laugh. He only said quietly, "Oga, even the smallest snake can swallow a bird if it waits long enough." He went home that day and tied red cloth around his wrist for protection. Weeks passed, and the office became a shadow of itself. Amara was now the invisible ruler. She knew everyone's secret, who owed money, who was cheating the company, who disliked the boss, and she used that knowledge like a spider uses its web to trap and destroy. She would go to the boss and whisper, "Sir, I don't want to gossip, but people say you are too soft." Then she'd tell others, "Oga said you people are lazy and useless." Before long, the office was split into camps, the boss's loyalists on one side, and the staff on the other. Meetings turned to quarrels, teamwork turned to chaos. Yet Amara still wore her gentle smile. Her voice was still sweet, her steps still graceful. But her eyes, or if only they had looked closely at her eyes, they sometimes glowed yellow under the light. It was on a Thursday night that Boba heard it. He was dozing near the generator room when a soft hiss woke him. He thought it was a rat. But when he looked up, the sound came again, long, sharp, and chilling. He followed it quietly until he reached the storeroom. Through the keyhole, he saw Amara standing before a mirror. Her reflection shimmered, and as he watched, her face changed. Her tongue flicked out, split in two like a snake's. Her skin shimmered with scales. "Spirits of deceit," she whispered in a deep voice, "feed me more tongues to twist." Boba screamed and fainted. The next morning, they found him trembling and speechless. He could only point at Amara's desk, shaking his head like someone who had seen the edge of the spirit world. When the boss saw Boba Airway's condition, fear gripped his heart. He remembered the snakeskin, the quarrels, the missing files. He sent for Boba H., the town's old priest, a man who knew the language of both the living and the unseen. Boba H. came before sunset, carrying a bag of cowries and white chalk. He poured libation and threw the cowries on the floor. When they landed, he frowned. He said slowly, "You have welcomed the daughter of the underworld. She was sent to feed on lies and gossip, and you gave her plenty to eat." Fear spread like cold harmattan air. Some staff cried, others prayed. They locked the doors and gathered everyone in the meeting room. Boba H. began his chants, his voice deep and rhythmic. He called the names of the four corners of the earth, the guardians of truth. As his voice rose, Amara walked in, smiling as always. "What's happening here?" she asked softly. Boba H. looked at her and shouted a sacred word. "The fear that devours the serpent." Amara screamed. Her voice was not human. The lights flickered. Papers flew around. Before their very eyes, Amara's face began to twist, her skin cracked and peeled like dry wood. Her eyes glowed yellow, and her tongue split fully in two. People screamed. Some fainted. She laughed at a sound that echoed like thunder inside metal walls. "You made my work easy," she hissed. "Your hearts were already full of envy and lies. I only gave your poison a voice." Then she slithered backward, her feet melting into a long, dark tail. Before anyone could move, she struck the floor with her tail, and a cloud of smoke filled the room. When it cleared, Amara was gone. Only a coiled snakeskin remained on the floor and the faint smell of burnt oil. For 3 days, the office staff did not open the building. They went to the river with Boba H. for cleansing. He washed their heads with bitter herbs and palm wine. He warned them. "The snake girl came because your tongues were sharp and your hearts were divided. If you return to gossip and lies, she will return to feed again." They nodded and promised to change. When the office finally reopened, the air felt lighter, the walls brighter. The workers began to treat each other with honesty and caution. It is not every enemy that carries a knife, some come with smiles and compliments. And remember, when lies become common, even spirits will come to feast on them.